Hello, hello, hello. Are we there? Is everybody on? It looks like we're on. Hello, hello, hello. Hey, this is Warren Redlich. Really excited to see everybody today. Going to talk today. We're going to have a big chunk about Tesla today, but I want to start with SpaceX, some space stuff, and I don't know how does this sound? Do you guys hearing this music? I don't know if you guys can hear the music. I'm just starting off with a little music just to see if it does something. But with that said, let's dive into it. The big thing to start off with is tomorrow is going to be Artemis 1. The SLS launch is coming. So the 2-hour launch window, 8:33 a.m. I am planning on being out on the beach. I got my beach right out here. I don't plan on being on that beach. I plan on being closer. I'm about 13 miles away. So, I just watched the press briefing this morning. It seems like they're good to go. And Eric Berger from, I forget what Eric Berger's organization. Eric Berger wrote the book Liftoff. Eric Berger is a space journalist. He quoted, and I actually heard the guy say it, the head guy from NASA's team said we're good to go. You never know. It's the first time this thing's going to be on the platform. So I think whether they're basically saying there's about a 70% chance of launch tomorrow. There's also they're rolling out a new platform that's never launched before. So will they catch something wrong somewhere along the way? We don't know. But very exciting. This is the biggest rocket, operational rocket in the world. It will no longer be the biggest operational rocket in the world. I'm just missing a six-pack. It'll no longer be the biggest operational rocket in the world when Starship starts flying, but Starship is not operational yet. So pretty cool. Excited to see this. Just really quick about space. Elon tweeted this. I thought this was fake. I think this is actually a real photo. It looks like an artist's drawing, or it looks like something that somebody created, but Mechazilla lifting, actually, it says Starship, but that's actually Super Heavy Booster, loading Starship onto the launch pad. This is science fiction in real life, CGI in real life. It's crazy stuff. We just had a Starlink launch last night, and they got 54 satellites up, and Elon noted that they're squeezing extra performance out of Falcon 9, almost at 17 metric tons to an actual useful orbit with booster and fairing reusable. So they're while we're getting ready for Starship, they're still improving Falcon 9. And this is the type of thing we'll expect to see with Starship, is once Starship starts flying, they're going to continue tweaking Raptor to get more performance out of Raptor. They're going to continue tweaking the Starship platform to reduce mass, to make it more efficient, to get other gains out of the Starship platform. So a lot of great stuff coming, but it's nice to see they continue to iterate on the Falcon 9 platform. They haven't stopped iterating on that. About Starlink, this was news yesterday, day before yesterday. There's this ongoing battle over spectrum. So Starlink satellites fly above the Earth and they communicate down to Starlink dishes. I have a Starlink dish that I'm not currently using. And eventually, it's something I'm going to talk about in a minute, they're going to be communicating with T-Mobile phones. Kind of cool. But Dish Networks and Viasat, other satellite operators and other operators have been challenging OneWeb, whatever. They're all challenging SpaceX's effort to expand Starlink. And at this point, they're just looking like losers. But anyway, they appealed an FCC decision, and the appeals court said no. And let's go a little bit into the description. At issue is FCC's decision last year to allow SpaceX to launch 2,814 Starlink satellites into 540 to 570 kilometer orbits, down from the original 1,110 to 1,300 kilometer orbital range. The closer the satellites are to Earth, the shorter the distance the light has to travel and the lower the latency. So when you are on your computer and you say, send something to the internet, it gets to the internet quicker. When the internet sends something to you, it gets there quicker. Not just the volume of data that comes to your dish, but the quickness between your making a request and it being received and you getting the response. That's latency. So getting into lower orbits improves latency. So that's really important for making this. It actually, being in the lower orbits means the orbits are less stable and the satellites fall out of orbit quicker. but the value to the users is much, much higher. So the FCC made the decision despite objections from several rival satellite operators, and Dish and Viasat filed lawsuits, but the U.S. Court of Appeals for the District of Columbia upheld the FCC's original decision and said the legal claims from both Dish and Viasat lacked merit or standing. Standing is a concept of, are you the appropriate party to raise this objection? Merit is you're just full of crap. And there was more in the article about, quotes from both Dish, their spokespeople from Dish and Viasat saying, we continue to maintain blah, blah, blah. So with that in mind, Starlink version 2 will be launching next year. Will transmit direct to mobile phones, eliminating dead zones worldwide. This is the Starlink T-Mobile announcement. Connectivity will be 2 to 4 megabits per cell zone, so it will work great for texting and voice calls, but not for high bandwidth. So, William, that's a question for a little bit later. Anyway, this is a good sign. Starlink V2. There was this great press conference with T-Mobile at Starbase out by the Rocket Garden. I've been at roughly that spot. I haven't been at the exact spot because that's not an area we're allowed to walk, but the roadway next to it, I've walked down that roadway that you can see in the background of the video if you watch the video. And basically the idea is there's certain areas where there's no good cell coverage. And you have your cell phone, you have no coverage, and this will enable cell phones to communicate to satellites whizzing 500 kilometers up, going 17,000 miles an hour. They're used to communicating a few miles away to a cell tower that's stationary. And somehow the technology is going to allow Starlink satellites with 5 meter by 5 meter, 25 square meter antennas to be able to communicate with cell phones on the ground. This is mind-blowing to me because these phones are very low power. So when these phones send a signal out, it's like a whisper in a huge valley. You're like on a plane, you're like on the Great Plains, and you whisper, and somehow something 500 miles away is able to hear that whisper. That is mind-blowing. I did not think this was possible. I'm going to just be clear. I will admit when I was wrong. I did not think this was possible, that they would be able to do any kind of communication from cell phones to satellites. And the key is the antenna on the satellite is so large and so sophisticated that it's able to hear that whisper from 500 miles away. That is absolutely might. Cypress Hill, yes, that's correct. T-Mobile will not charge extra for their most popular plans. If you have a bargain basement plan, there'll be an additional fee. But for most plans, it'll be included. That's what they said. That's the plan. So that's where that's going. And just one more update about Starlink there. We're about to hit Tesla next. Two or three people asked Elon, will Tesla's cars be getting this service as well with premium connectivity? And Elon said yes. So your Tesla, when you are in an area with no cell coverage, will still have some limited connectivity through Starlink because the phone has a cell phone antenna. It's absolutely amazing. So let's see here. There was a question. Am I familiar with AST Space Mobile? No. This is a test flight. Are they making another for real flight? Damon, I think you're talking about... Damon is asking, wait, this is a test flight. Are they making another for the real flight? What percentage of the machine is reusable, booster, and ship? I think Damon is talking about SLS, Artemis SLS. I think the engines are reusable. I think the boosters might be reusable, but when we say reusable, there's going to be a lot of work to get them back to useful. And I think maybe the capsule at the top will be reusable, but I think the main part of the ship will not be reusable. And Williams said, can I comment on Shift 4 and their relationship with SpaceX? Are they processing all business payments for SpaceX? Are they processing all? I believe that they are processing, like if you are ordering Starlink, I think your payment goes through Shift 4. But I don't, and your monthly payment for Starlink and when you order the satellite dish. But I don't think all business payments for SpaceX. SpaceX does a lot of different business, and I don't think all of it is going through Shift 4. So Brooke says she would love to see a deal between SpaceX and AT&T. The bandwidth is I think the satellite antenna is specific to the bandwidth that T-Mobile uses, the PCS bandwidth. So I don't think that AT&T's network will work with that, but it may be that AT&T and others will make deals with T-Mobile, which I think is the big hope, that other networks will make deals like this in other countries and so on. So I think I'm excited about Artemis. I think Artemis is pretty cool. I think, it's not, I don't think it's the future. I think Artemis is sort of like a legacy of the past, but hey, they're launching a big ass rocket. It's a pretty big effing rocket. It's part of the mission. It's exciting to see it. It's good to have other launch providers. Is this ideal? Is it efficient? I'd rather see Blue Origin kick it into gear and get New Glenn up and flying. I don't think Shift 4 is going to have anything to do with T-Mobile, and I don't know what one of the things that was not disclosed is what is T-Mobile paying SpaceX in order to have this service, and I'm guessing it's a lot of money. I'm guessing it's billions, but I don't know for sure. So hit that. All right, so let's turn to SpaceX for a second. Oh, that's not the one I wanted. So I think most people have seen that version 10.69 of FSD Beta is now up and running. A lot of people are having good experiences with it. It's not perfect. People are having issues with it. It is an early beta release of this particular version of the software. Is limited release to only 1,000 people. But a lot of people are seeing really good experiences with it. Chuck Cook has had a lot of good positive comments about it. Elon followed up with the 10.69.1 releases Monday night. I am hoping that I get it on my Model 3, which I will have to make a special trip down to South Florida to drive it. But that will be cool. And then a week or so later, wide beta, which hopefully means I'll definitely get it on that vehicle, and maybe I'll get it on my X. Will they tie 3 starships together and make a Starship Heavy? No, I don't think so. I don't think that's the plan at all. I think they've learned from that. I think there's a really significant chance that we will see an 18-meter diameter. We'll just see a larger Starship. Just talking about Starlink, going back to Starlink for a second, let me pull that back. The Starlink version 2 that he's talking about is 7 meters long, and that will fit inside the payload capacity of Starship, which is 9 meters in diameter. I have a feeling that they have a plan for a Starlink version 3 satellite, and it might be bigger. And maybe it'll fit on Starship, but maybe there's a plan for a next generation Starship, once this generation of Starship is flying, to have an 18, because Elon has talked in the past about an 18-meter diameter Starship. So it may be that once they get this generation of Starship up and they're manufacturing them in volume, they may say, all right, let's try to make a larger Starship. And maybe it's not 18 meters in diameter, maybe it's 12 meters in diameter. But if you want to launch bigger satellites with more capability, then you want a bigger Starship. If you want your fuel depot in space to hold enough fuel to fuel multiple starships to go on the trips to the moon and Mars, then maybe an 18-meter diameter Starship makes sense for being a fuel transport to getting fuel up and for being a propellant depot up in orbit. So I think there's a bunch of ideas there, a lot of really interesting things. So, we had beta running. Beta is running well. Lots of different stories about FSD Beta running well. There's a little bit of drama here and there, but really good signs there. Tesla Herbert, my friend Herbert, says back in 2018, people said autonomous driving is impossible, never happened in my lifetime. 2020, Elon said it was supposed to be here by now. Liar. 2021, how dare you let 30,000 real testers use this? In 2022, oh sure, it can do complex left turns now, but why isn't it perfect yet? So Elon thought that was funny. The goalpost keeps moving, and the reality is we're getting close, but it's hard to say how close we're getting. If you want to check it out, there was a good interview, Dave Lee with James Douma talking about this. James Douma sees that the improvement is still exponential, and there's just this question, when is it going to get across there? William, I'm not sure what about debris. I haven't seen any plans for SpaceX Starship to salvage orbital debris, but yeah, it does seem like that would be, I don't know if they would salvage orbital debris or they would just nudge it so that it would fall back into Earth and get out of the way. I think that's the bigger concern. So another detail, and one thing I see a video coming in my head about this. I haven't solidified the idea in my head yet, but John Carmack, who is the from id Software, Doom, Castle Wolfenstein, a lot of video games, and a friend of Elon, says, as he looks at electronics with weakening batteries, he wonders if they would be better with bulkier lithium iron phosphate batteries. There's less energy density, but 10x the lifetime. And he says there's not much demand for 10-year lifespan consumer electronics. He's not referring to electric vehicles. He's referring to, things like iPhones, right? Elon says there's similarly high cycle life with nickel cathode is possible if you're optimizing for that. Adding silicone to the primarily carbon anode improves energy density but reduces cycle life due to large volumetric changes. So it's kind of interesting. I think that there's a really interesting story about what's coming in terms of batteries for Tesla and for the EV industry, that Tesla is able to adapt to a variety of different battery chemistries and a variety of different battery formats, where almost every other EV maker is stuck with whatever format they've chosen. Tesla can do lithium iron phosphate with prismatic cells. They can do a lithium iron phosphate structural pack blade battery from BYD versus prismatic from CATL. They can do nickel-based 1865s, 2170s, 4680s. Tesla is very, very capable of using different chemistries in different circumstances. So LFP is now in Megapack, freeing up cells for different purposes. And now you have this tax credit. I'm going to be speaking with Bradford Ferguson. I'm going to be recording a video with Bradford Ferguson in about 3 hours. And that video will probably be public tomorrow, talking about the tax credit issue, that it's likely, I think other people, and I tend to agree with this, I already thought it was likely that Tesla was going to build a gigafactory in Kansas or near Kansas, because Panasonic is building a factory in Kansas. But it's likely Tesla's going to announce another factory to build batteries somewhere in the US because of this massive tax credit that's come in the Inflation Reduction Act. I'm not saying that I support the Inflation Reduction Act, but as a Tesla shareholder, it looks like it's going to be good for us. And I'll be talking about more about that, and you'll hear more about that tomorrow. Just having some fun here. James Stevenson, I cannot enough on Twitter, says, hey, Elon Musk, how long can Tesla revenue keep growing like this? And Stephen Mark Ryan did a nice video covering this graph and how fast Tesla's revenue is growing. And Elon says the limit is that it's safe to say that our output will not exceed the mass of the known universe. Apparently, we're limited to the known universe, where we can't go beyond the known universe for mass. It would be nice if we could attain some more potential out of the unknown universe, but apparently that's out. Now, something I wanted to get into in particular with, here's what's coming for Tesla in the near term. I don't normally do short-term predictions about what's going to happen with Tesla stock price, but I think what's coming with Q3 and Q4 is going to have a big influence. And I think there's some other things. I'm going to be talking about this on Wednesday. I'm going to be recording an interview with Alexandra Mertz, who just did an interview with Gary Black and maybe that was Farzad. But I don't know if it was Herbert or Farzad that they just did an interview. But I want to talk about what's coming, and this video is coming soon. There's a bunch of things that are coming in the next 6 months, maybe a little bit less than 6 months, that should be big drivers of the stock price. I can't predict Wall Street. Wall Street does whatever Wall Street does, but I see a bunch of things coming. And I wanted to start off with Troy Teslike has his projection. He predicts 368,000 vehicles delivered in Q3. Wall Street analysts have a consensus of 364. I think they're being conservative. I'm going to go through this with a minute, but I think Texas should be over 13,000 in Q3, and Shanghai should hit 220,000, and Berlin should hit 17,000. So let's look at Troy's numbers more particularly here. And there's a big thing that I noticed here is look at their numbers. Look at Troy's numbers from Fremont, and he has 127,000 for the first quarter. It goes up to 133,000 in the second quarter. Then it drops. He sees Fremont's production dropping from Q2 to Q4. That Fremont will produce less in Q3 and less in Q4 than it produced in Q2. And I don't think that makes any sense at all. I think Fremont should be increasing production. He has Model S and Model X production increasing quarter on quarter to getting to 25,000 vehicles for S and X in Q4, that's a pace of 100,000 a year. And that's S and X are very high margin vehicles, so that's a real positive for Tesla in terms of revenue and profit, but they're still small numbers. But this is one of my quibbles with Troy is if Tesla did 133,000 vehicles in Fremont in Q2, then I think we should expect Tesla to do at least 140,000 and maybe 150,000 in Q4. I don't understand why they wouldn't grow more than that. I mean, we should be seeing, he's calling significant declines in Model 3 and Model Y from Q2 to Q4, and I don't think that makes any sense at all. And then you get into Shanghai, Berlin, and Texas, and I actually think he may be overshooting Giga Shanghai for Q4. This is a very optimistic projection for Giga Shanghai Q4. But for Q3, he has Shanghai at only 212,000. I know there was a little bit of a pause in production for Model 3 and Model Y, but I think Shanghai will produce 220,000. And then you get to Berlin. He's got Berlin at 13,000. I think I've got Berlin at 17,000. He's got Texas at about 12,000. I've got 13,000, so that's pretty close. So I think if you see Fremont hitting 135,000, Shanghai hitting 220, I think you can see where I'm getting closer to 380 or even 400,000 for Q3. 400,000 is probably a stretch, but 380 for Q3 seems likely. And this is the kind of thing that drives the stock up. If Tesla delivers more vehicles, they're going to deliver more revenue, they're going to deliver more profit. And this is the type of thing that makes Wall Street say, hey, wait a minute. Now, the Inflation Reduction Act, these tax credits and the potential boost to Tesla's profits coming from that, we're going to talk about with Bradford today, and that'll probably air tomorrow. That is a big deal. That is a really, really big deal. And if Wall Street starts to figure that one out, wait a minute, this means Tesla's going to make an extra $50 billion a year? That's non-trivial money, right? This is really, really serious money. You know, Tesla's going to be producing 100 gigawatt hours of batteries out of Texas, maybe more than that, 10 gigawatt hours out of Cato Road, however much is being produced in Nevada. Although I think Nevada production is really Panasonic rather than Tesla, so I don't think Tesla gets the credit for that. But, you know, that 110 gigawatt hours, and you multiply that by something like $35 a kilowatt hour, and I think if you put them in packs, you get another $10 a kilowatt hour. I think Wall Street, these are things that Wall Street should be catching on to. Like, wait a minute, this is really, really gangbuster numbers for Tesla. So Admiral Medjay says, call me crazy, but I'm intimately convinced that ultimately the battery industry is going to find a way to store energy in table salt. I don't know how, though, but they will. Drew Baglino talked about sodium-based batteries in the future. I don't think that would be for cars. That would be for energy storage. But given the likely shortages of lithium, Tesla is looking for people for... This was Drew making a call to battery researchers. Hey, come up with a way for us to use sodium-based batteries. Even if they're not particularly energy dense, we can use those for energy storage. So a lot of good things there. So, all right, let me... outside of Tesla news now, we're moving on to boring company news. Elon did a cute poll way back about tunnels, and then he came back to it this week and said, funny how there's simultaneous reaction saying it's impossible and it was already done 3,000 years ago. Now, boring company tunnels are active use in Las Vegas. Try it if you're in town. We'll be expanding to connect all major destinations in Vegas plus airport. He said it would be cool to do a much simplified Hyperloop demo tunnel, maybe between Austin and San Antonio. So Elon is saying that they may start doing a Hyperloop between Austin and San Antonio. Austin and San Antonio is about 95 or 100 miles apart. If they can get a Hyperloop going a few hundred miles an hour in a vacuum tunnel, and you know the trip from Austin to San Antonio goes from an hour and a half or 2 hours down to 20 minutes, that's pretty cool. That is pretty cool potential right there. So other news, Twitter. This was sort of a big deal with Twitter. There was a whistleblower that came out, and Washington Post reported on it. 4 people familiar with the company's processes for spam detection spoke on condition of anonymity to describe sensitive internal matters, told the Post the company keeps several internal tallies of spam and bots known as prevalence across the service beyond the number supplied to Wall Street. The Post also obtained an internal document which was redacted to hide the numbers, showing that spam prevalence was a number shared with the board. The board at Twitter is aware of this issue. The document was supplied to the board at a meeting Zatko attended, including 2 of the people. So Elon says spam prevalence was shared with the board, but the board chose not to disclose that to the public. And then Spidey says these are some of the key accusations made by Zatko. Nearly half of Twitter's 7,000 or so full-time employees have unmonitored access to users' sensitive personal data like phone numbers, addresses, etc., and internal workings of its software. So Twitter is basically being run like a bunch of loose cannons. This is not a carefully run company that's limiting data access in the way that they should, that's being open to criticism and being fair about their data status and being honest about their bots and their problems. And I think this could be a key detail that helps Elon in the lawsuit with Twitter. And hopefully, as Saif Pale says, hopefully this will just lead to a negotiated settlement, and Elon buys the company for, instead of $54 a share, maybe he buys it for $45 a share. I don't know what the number is going to be, but some reduction in price so we can get that part of the drama over. And then all the people who complain that Elon shouldn't be buying Twitter and then complain that Elon has to buy Twitter, once he's actually buying Twitter, they'll complain again that Elon shouldn't own Twitter. So, Alan, I'm banned from Facebook and they wouldn't tell me why. So last thing, Elon talked about population collapse due to low birth rates, much bigger risk to civilization and global warming. Elon's been beating this drum for a while. There was a whole conversation here with Jason DeBolt, Matt Smith, and I think Dave Lee was in on it. Matt Smith said, I don't think external pressure on parents is the issue so much. Most peers of mine, Matt is younger than me, who don't have kids are hesitant or unwilling to make the lifestyle sacrifices necessary for being a good parent. Elon said that, plus pessimism about the future, false overpopulation fears. I actually disagree with Elon here. A lot of people say this. I don't think this is really it. I think Matt hit the nail on the head. I think as we get wealthier, we suddenly obtain lifestyle choices that are very attractive, and we don't want to give them up. And children take time, and children take money, and that takes away our time and money to be able to enjoy the lifestyle choices. You know, people want to travel all over the world. People want to party in various ways or do all kinds of things, and children get in the way of that. And I think one of the big issues is the message died. There was a message when I was a kid that one of the fundamental things you will do in life is you will get married and you will have children. And I think that message died somewhere in the last generation or two. Maybe before that, maybe it was in millennials, or maybe it was Gen Z or whatever, Gen Y. Somewhere in there, the message died. And fundamentally, people don't recognize that it's a fundamental part of life. It's where we get meaning in life. And yeah, Alan, we're selfish, but you can be selfish in enjoying your children. Like for me, because I have 2 kids and I'm hoping to have more kids, but I have 2 kids, the joy of having children, the joy of raising children, the joy of watching them grow, the joy of seeing their accomplishments, it's one of the best things I've done. It is the best thing I've done in life. It is the greatest thing I've done in life. And I think a lot of people aren't getting the message about how positive an experience that is. And if I can deliver that message to people who are watching today, having kids is wonderful. Having a partnership with somebody that you trust and you share this joy with, and raising children and going through, there's lots of hurdles, there's lots of challenges, but it's not rocket science, it's not brain surgery. It's hard. It requires endurance. It requires patience, but it's nowhere near as hard as building electric vehicle companies or building rockets that are going to go to Mars. This is stuff we can do. And what's missing, I think, in the messaging is people don't appreciate how absolutely wonderful it is to have children, to watch them grow and see all these great things. It's partly the women putting off the fertility issue with women putting off childbearing until later years is an issue. Women would be more likely to have more kids if they started at, say, 24 or 22 or whatever. But there are plenty of women who start at 22 and only have 2 kids. Brooks says, I know most people just want to focus on career development stuff these days and maybe party, hence, and also financial issues. It's not financial issues. We're richer than we've ever been. We're having fewer kids than we've ever had. Our grandparents had less money and more kids. Poor countries have more kids. Wolf says, I'm selfish because I wanted to put those bikini chicks back on. I don't think the bikini chicks are coming back anytime soon. All right, so I think that's everything I had prepared for today, and I forgot to ask my Patreon. Just a real quick pitch. Please consider supporting. I'm gonna go on, and I'm gonna look in the Q&A in the chat. But please consider supporting this channel on the Locals platform, on Patreon, or as a YouTube channel member. There's links to all that in the description below. Of course, check out the T-shirts at elonbits.com. The Tesla Air T-shirts, one of the most popular T-shirts. People who are supporters on Locals, on Patreon, or as YouTube channel community members, I usually the day before post something that invites them to comment and submit questions for the live stream, and I address those questions early in the live stream. Yesterday and today were a bit hectic. I'm still adapting to my new space, and I just ordered a new laptop. So I'm going to be doing these. I'm going to be doing these videos from a different laptop shortly. I ordered a MacBook, 16-inch MacBook Pro with 16 gigabytes of RAM and a terabyte hard SSD drive. It has a higher resolution camera, so the video should be a little bit better. So all that going on. Random guy says, I can't even get a girlfriend, let alone have kids. That's why I'm investing in Tesla to set up my future for a family someday. Yeah, it is. I mean, one of the challenges is I think it's harder for people to find someone. I think the dating apps are making it harder for people to find someone. But I think that the fertility rate was declining before that, and that may be contributing to it. Natural selection in play. Yeah, well, the problem with natural selection in play is humanity's going to go extinct and some other species is going to win the game. If more people your age own only one house than people our age can own even one, then start a family. I don't think that's it at all. I don't think that's accurate. I don't think I only own one house, just to be clear. I don't own where I'm living now, and I share the ownership in a house with my ex-wife that we'll be selling soon, and then we'll each own a house probably. But there's plenty of room to build homes, and the real challenge isn't that rich people have too many homes. It's that there's too many restrictions on building homes, and there's other issues like that. Needed 6 kids back in the day because 3 would die. That's sadly true. I'm just looking in here in the chat to see. Women used to love staying home and being a homemaker. Yes, that's a big thing that we used to have, is that it used to be a valued thing that women would stay home and they would, and I think that's still, I don't think it's as undervalued as people think. New laptop, lost weight, shaved head, ladies, here he is. I don't think the new laptop is the most attractive thing about me, but thank you. Yeah, elonbits.com for the merch. But links to everything in the description below. Thank you, Mark Plott. Thank you to the moderators, Mark Plott in particular. The cost is the reason people have less children, according to Jeff. If my wife and I could have afforded it, we would have had several more. Jeff, you made choices. You made choices that you weren't going to have more children because there's other things you wanted to spend money on. There's other things you wanted to put your time in. Look, my ex and I only had 2 kids, and there were reasons why we only had 2 kids. I won't get into that, but everybody has personal reasons. I think one of the things is that there's a sense among a lot of women, well, my pregnancy would be high risk, where your grandmother's pregnancy was higher risk than any pregnancy you're going to have. So it's just the values have changed, the importance of this has changed, and people aren't willing to take the same risks and so on. Steven says, I heard they will store energy in blueberries, grapes, gorgonzola, and butter. If you follow me on Instagram or Twitter, you'll know what he's joking about. I made a blueberry dish the other day. Yesterday? Was that yesterday? I think that was yesterday. 300 billion gain from Inflation Act was just burned for art degree debt at 500 billion. I haven't really done a deep analysis of the Inflation Reduction Act, but I'm pretty sure it's not going to reduce inflation. I'm pretty sure there's a lot of spending and there's a lot of problems there. Just looking in the chat here. Where are we? We're only a half hour in. Oh yeah, I think I want to just mention really quick. There's a lot in the Inflation Reduction Act that hasn't been processed yet. I've heard that there's some incentives to produce solar panels in the United States. So it may be that Tesla decides to produce solar panels in the U.S. because of tax credits for that. I still think that we're going to see a gigafactory in Osaka, Japan, but this may accelerate deployment of another factory. It's not so much the car factory, it may be the battery factory that there's more demand for. So maybe Tesla builds another battery factory. I'd be happy to interview Joe Justice. I met him once. Mark, reach out to him, let him know. I'd be happy to talk to him. I've got interviews scheduled with Bradford Ferguson and Alexander Mertz, and I've been talking to James Dauma about doing another interview about Fsd Beta. I don't know exactly what I would ask Joe Justice about. I think Joe Justice has his own channel, and I don't know that I have any insights into questions I would ask him. Sipe Hills 2007 says 18-meter diameter Starship. Holy crap. Elon tweeted that, I want to say 2019. He tweeted that possibility back in 2019, and I think when you combine the fact that 7-meter diameter, that the 7-meter long Starlink satellite version 2 is an iteration from the previous Starlink satellite that was probably less than 5 meters. I think it was 4 meters. It is 4 meters. Then it's natural to conclude that, the 3rd generation Starlink satellite might be significantly bigger and they might need a bigger rocket to do it. I think there's a lot of potential for that. If this will work, T-Mobile will be unmatched in this market. This is huge. I think it's an edge case advantage for T-Mobile in that the vast majority of people are never in a situation where they need that. But if you can have it, you want it because you never know when you might need it. So, all right. Okay. Just see if there's any. What was that? There's a gorgeous Tesla fan on Merritt Island. Did you court her yet? I had lunch with Ava. Ava is going to be my realtor and help me find a place to live on Satellite Beach. And it's coming soon. Oh, pod car. Somebody asked about the pod car. When can we see your pod car? So I just met with, I don't have it here. I don't have it. I've been in communication with 3 different, the plan for the pod car is I'm going to buy an electric vehicle go-kart or an electric vehicle go-kart kit. I've been talking to 1 kit maker and 2 companies that make electric vehicle go-karts. I believe I have a likely candidate to supply me with 2 EV go-karts, and then the idea is I'm going to modify those go-karts. The go-kart is not the design. That's not the real engineering plan for the future pod car, but they're the right length and width and height for me to make a mock-up, make a proof of concept of what I want the vehicle to be. Basically, to buy an electric vehicle go-kart, put bigger wheels and tires on it, take off some of the fancy plastic on it that makes it look like a race car, replace the steering wheel and pedals with remote control and or joystick, and then put an aerodynamic shell on it, and then be able to demo that, demo it both in videos and electric vehicle events, and use that as the stepping stone to a crowdfunding round. So if all goes well, I'm going to have these in less than a month. I'm going to start working on them, and they will be 3 months, 4 months. We'll see how long it takes me. I will have a working version of the quote prototype or proof of concept vehicle. Probably not the end of this year, but sometime early next year. Make some videos showing that off. Take it to events. Maybe I might have 2 of them. Take them to events. Give people rides. And then at some point, do a crowdfunding round, raise $5 million, and hire an engineering team to build the real first prototype, and then build the real production vehicle and make progress. And for those who don't know the pod car, the idea is a single passenger self-driving vehicle. So let's see. So that's where I'm making progress on that. I'm expecting to spend a little less than somewhere in the ballpark of $10,000 or a little less to have 2 of these electric vehicle go-karts. Probably right in this space. I'll probably be working on them in my living room here. They are small enough that I can get them through the front door. That's one of the key details. The height of the ones I think I'm going to buy. There's a company locally in Florida that looks most promising. So Michael says there are more people on Earth than ever in history. Yes, but we are. Look, you can just look at the numbers of, say, South Korea and say there are 3 times as many 50-year-olds as there are 1-year-olds. South Korea is going to face a population collapse. Lots of countries have fertility rates of less than 2, and you just follow that out for as many generations as you need to, and the population goes to 0. I mean, you can ignore that if you want to, but the practical reality is that humanity will go extinct if we don't start having more kids. We need to have more kids. So Jeff says childcare is outrageous. That was not a fact back in the day. Back in the day, the mom stayed home. Look, if that's your concern, then the answer, then anybody who says that the problem is cost and the problem is this and that, then let's hack back the size of government. Let's take government back to the size it was 100 years ago when it was 5% of GDP instead of 50% of GDP. And then we only need one person working in the home, and one of the spouses can stay home and take care of the kids. This natural selection favors conservatives who typically follow the family unit. I don't think so. I think conservatives are having fewer kids too. Maybe they have more than liberals, but I don't think that's a big difference. Feminism told women they needed careers, not kids. Yeah, I think that's part of it too. Did the Inflation Act just pay for student debt? I don't think that came out of the Inflation Reduction Act. That came out of some other bill, and I question whether whatever legislation authorized the president to just pull $10,000 out of his butt. Cost $2,400 a month for a small apartment in Vancouver. Where do kids fit there? Then don't live in Vancouver. If that's your problem, don't live in Vancouver. Don't live in high. Look, if you're not making a lot of money in a high-cost city, then go live in a low-cost city. I mean, that's a choice you're making. And you can raise kids in a small apartment. You can do it. I think my parents, my mom and my uncle were raised in like a 1-bedroom apartment. You know, we're so spoiled. Do I think Elon will end up buying Twitter eventually? Yes. Do I have any thoughts on Biden canceling $10,000 in student loans? I'm not particularly fond of the decision, and I think it's an abuse of executive power. I thought we had a constitutional system where Congress voted for things and then the president executed. I didn't think the president just was able to pull $10,000 out of his butt. I did not get a student loan for my oldest child, and I thought about, well, I should get a student loan because there's a chance we're going to get debt relief. And I didn't pursue it, and I should have pursued it. And you know, I think it's really massively unfair to people who either didn't go to college or, you know, worked to pay for college themselves and didn't take on debt. And it's a payoff to largely wealthy people who finance their kids' education at elite schools. I think, you know, because a lot of, you know, I think it was less common for poor people who sent their kids to state schools to do that. People who sent their kids to Ivy League schools are more likely to have that debt. Mark Plott wants to retire in Japan with waifu. Okay. Electric Viking says Australians are canceling BYD and ordering Model Ys because of high service fees. I haven't heard that. When I grew up in the 60s, my mom worked out of the house as soon as my sister and I were old enough to handle cooking and cleaning. My mom worked. My mom definitely worked. Australia is now selling Model Y rear-wheel drive with lithium iron phosphate. Cool. Will Elon buy the Dallas Cowboys? No. Elon is not buying a sports team. Jeff says, exactly, my wife and I just finished paying off the last loan for our oldest daughter. Talk about depressing. It's a real slap in the face to people who were financially responsible, who found ways of it. Like I paid off my student debts a while ago. I didn't take on as much student debt as other people. You know, it's you know, you kind of look at this and say, what's the long run knock-on effect of this is now people are going to be more likely to take on student loans figuring, well, it's going to get paid off later. And then, you know, you just end up with, you know, really the problem is that we've allowed the government providing all these student loans led colleges to increase all sorts of things, including the price of tuition, the price of housing. So when I went to college to a private university and I paid about $4,000 a year for tuition and $4,000 for room and board. And now it's like, I don't know, $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 a year. Has it improved that much? Says inflation hasn't gone up that much. Why do I think Tesla unusually dipped after the split? Actually, I think the markets dipped after the split and Tesla dipped less than the markets. I think markets held up. 74 Camaro says, I'm wrong, Warren. I love that all these people got this break. Look, here's the issue that people don't get. Money doesn't grow on trees. When you print money and you hand money out, you're inflating, you're causing inflation. You're creating all kinds of problems. And you know, the idea that government can just give people money here, we'll give, it's like Oprah Winfrey. You get a car, you get a car, you get a car. Come on. The idea that government is God and government can just hand out cash. There's no magic horn of plenty. If you don't make stuff, there's no stuff. Just giving people money doesn't make more stuff. It just inflates things. William Minahan. Hey, William Minahan from Albany, apparently. Big 3-bedroom in Watervliet, New York, $1,200 a month. Yeah, you can. Albany, New York is a reasonably moderate, medium income city. You get a state job or work for somebody in Albany, and rent is $1,200 a month, and you can do fine. And there's lots of places where housing is relatively inexpensive. Housing is often less expensive if you buy it than if you rent it. If you have a young family, you should probably be buying the home rather than renting it. Will Elon vote for Trump in 2024? I doubt it. Oh, question. When will Tesla receive investment grade rating from Moody's, etc.? So I don't know when. I don't think anybody knows when. I do think that we have a whole bunch of things coming in the next less than 6 month period leading up to late January when we have the Q4 earnings call. And one of those things is somewhere in that window, I think we should expect that the S&P 500, that Standard & Poor's and Moody's will give Tesla investment grade credit rating, and that will free up some investment funds that currently do not invest in Tesla because they have a restriction that they don't invest in stocks that don't have an investment grade credit rating. So that will create an increase in demand for Tesla stock. If I'm correct that Q3 numbers are going to knock it out of the park, then you're going to see an increase in demand for Tesla stock. That'll bump the price up a bit. If FSD Beta 10.69.1 is significantly better than 10.69, and then 10.69.2 is significantly better than that, and that's in the next few weeks, we're going to see that. AI Day, we're going to see Neuralink is sort of a knockoff. It's not really a Tesla thing, but we'll see Neuralink on October 31st. Starship orbital launch. It's odd that that SpaceX success has an effect on Tesla stock, but I think it does. It just gives more conviction to Elon's teams can get things done. So Michael says South Korea is the size of Indiana with the population of Texas and Florida combined. Maybe there's a national carrying capacity in this peninsula. No, South Korea is not overcrowded. It's just that their culture has changed and people aren't having kids. Todd Murray says it's ironic that the guy that loves to yell "pay your fair share" gives a $10,000 unfair handout. You know, that's the thing. Like, they'll say it's fair. They'll pretend it's fair. I don't think it's fair. You know, I'm on the downside of it, right? Because I'm not getting it. Damon says, I didn't go to college in 2009 when graduating high school because of a recent global crisis based on debt people couldn't afford. Yeah, I mean, look, it's really a slap in the face to people who don't go to college and don't borrow money to go to college. And Matt Senko says you've just incentivized not paying off student loans. It's going to drain the lower classes. Yeah, people are going to say, well, why would I pay off my student loan? They're probably going to give me a break on it, right? There'll probably be another debt relief moment. People don't think about the dynamic effects of this. There's the static, like right now it's helping somebody, but what about what's going to happen in 3 years when people say they want it again and again and again and again and again? Do I think Elon changed his mind about 18-month recession? No. The rest of us are going to feel economic pain for this. I think so. How much should I have if I want to retire at 60 years old? So this common question I get is, how much Tesla stock do I need to retire? That is a personal financial issue that I can't answer. You really need to talk to a professional investment advisor. You know, how much do you need? You know, how much do you plan on spending when you're 60 years old? So if you can live in a $1,000 a month apartment and you know, you can ride robo-taxi, you're at 60 years old, you're able to ride in the robo-taxis, you don't need to own a car, and you're able to live an inexpensive lifestyle, then you need a lot less money than if you're planning on owning a 5-bedroom house and, you know, 3 fancy cars and you know, you're going to be traveling a lot. So that depends on your lifestyle, and it depends on a lot of other things. Philip Mazie, we've saved for my son's tuition. He paid off all his student loans in 2 years. Now the government is once again setting the wrong behaviors. Yeah, I mean, my kids have not, my oldest did not take out a student loan. Admiral Medjay says, damn, 70,000 over here in Europe, college is free. It's free. It's not really free, but it's sort of free. But yeah, but you know, there ain't no such thing as a free lunch. Somebody's paying for that. The taxpayers are paying for it. You're paying higher taxes because of it. Mark Potocnik, retired at 57, poor but best thing ever. Do I think Elon will ever run for public office? No chance in hell. Well, yes, William, upstate New York, love upstate New York. I'm going to be coming up there, William. I'm going to be coming up there around roughly October 9th. I'm going to be in New York City October 9th, but either before or after October 9th, I'm expecting to be up in the Albany area. Build an energy positive home. Interesting. Some whining they wanted 50,000. Exactly. It's just, it starts at 10,000 and then next year there'll be 20,000. Next year it'll be 50,000. It never ends. Be Nice says, Allset is having a hell of a time getting off the ground. Not sure net zero is going to going anytime soon. So Allset, I'm just going to address this. Allset, a lot of people don't know about Allset is Tesla spelled backwards. It is a company that purports to be building homes with Tesla technology, I think in the Dallas, Texas area. And I think the company's a little, I'm just going to say it, I don't have a nice way of saying it. I think the company's a little bit sketchy. I think there's a lot of companies that float ideas and don't have the ability to execute and don't actually execute. And unfortunately, as far as I can tell, they really weren't ready to execute on their plan. So watch when you, and the same thing applies to my Podcar. My Podcar company is called Alreda Corp. And I'm going to be doing a crowdfunding round. And you should, if you don't invest, don't bet your house on my Podcar investment. If you're going to invest in my Podcar, recognize Warren doesn't have a lot of experience executing in this type of scenario. But if I get my Podcar prototype done, it's a good sign, and I think I have a good plan. And I think I'm in a better position than Boxable and Allset. I think I'm going to be able to deliver a better investment. But you should be skeptical about what I'm doing too. Yeah, Wolf says, my wife and I paid our student loans off. We deserve a check for $20,000. Exactly. You know, my wife and I paid our student loans off. We didn't get a student loan for our kid. Why aren't we getting a check? You get a check, you get a check, you get a check. It's ridiculous. Matt Senko says, I wonder if the American universities are having demand issues and this is a favor. It probably does spur demand for college if people think it's going to effectively be free. Raul says, hey, Warren, greetings from India. Do you think we're headed for a serious economic series later this year or next year? I think you mean recession. I think we are already in an economic recession. I think it's going to continue. I think it's hopefully not a deep or long or brutal recession, but I just don't know. I don't think government policies are really on the right path. And my biggest fear is that we're going to see this be an inflationary recession, and then inflation is going to go up, and if government is spending more money, and the response is supposed to be austerity, not like crazy spending. Don't park on the street in New York City and avoid handling doorknobs. Okay. I probably will park in the garage, and I probably will. I don't know why not park on the street in New York City? Perhaps Tesla bot will make raising kids easier, and then more people will have them. If it was about easy, that would be the answer. It's not about easy. It's about people being. I think it's about the cultural message being lost, that it's one of the fundamental things that gives us meaning in life is to get married and have kids and raise kids. And it's about the fact that we become wealthy enough to afford lifestyles that are fancy, and we don't want to give up the lifestyle. We have to make lifestyle choices to have kids. We have to give up some of the things we've chosen to enjoy. Jeff R says college will just continue to raise tuition. Absolutely. Damon says, I didn't get an education. I want 10K. Exactly. Get some Tesla bots to help the manufacturing your pod car. Keep them in the broom closet for charging. I don't think Tesla bots can be helpful in building the pod car. If we get to the point of manufacturing pod car, it will probably be dedicated specific robots for that purpose, but that's way down the road. That's an engineering question for way down the road. Do I know if FSD is transferable to a future purchase with a Tesla when you're ready for a new one? No, it is not transferable. When you buy a Tesla with FSD and you're going to buy a new Tesla, you should sell your car not directly to Tesla, generally speaking, but sell your car to a third party who values the fact that it has FSD. And you might have to wait a little longer to find that buyer, but that buyer should be willing to pay close to full value for FSD, or at least half value for FSD, and then you're going to buy a new vehicle with FSD. 74 Camaro says, simple, 1,000 shares for Monday to start, then 10,000 more, but remember to buy a few shares of other stocks too. Actually, I haven't done the math on like how many shares is a lot. Like, what is it? Like 3,000 shares is $1 million now? I think that's about right, or 3,300 shares is about $1 million. How many states do I think will follow California with banning ICE in the next 5 years? I think California banned internal combustion engine vehicles in 2035, not now. And so how many states will follow? I think it's an irrelevant ban. I think by 2035, no one will be making internal combustion engine vehicles. The EV market, the EV production will be so huge by 2035 that no one will be making gas vehicles. And to the extent that gas vehicles are being made, they will probably be made in niches where electric vehicles aren't ready to serve yet, and we shouldn't ban them. So, vandalism. Yeah, I guess so. Will I date a woman who's anti-Tesla? Sure, I don't mind that. If this is the meaning of life, why doesn't Elon get married? Well, he's having kids. Elon isn't the role model for everything. You don't have a mission-critical reason for New York City visit, go. I have a mission-critical reason for my New York City visit, although I think actually I might be in Long Island rather than New York City. I would probably be in both, but I'm going to mainly be in Long Island. All right. So we are 53 minutes in. I'm out of material. I want to thank the moderators, Mark Potocnik and Mark Plott in particular. Please consider supporting this channel on the Locals platform, Patreon, or as a YouTube channel member. Links in the description below. Check out the t-shirts at elonbits.com. The Tesla and Air t-shirt is one of the most popular. Please check out my other videos. Please subscribe to this channel. Subscribers get to comment in the chat. And thank you so much for watching.